Hi, welcome to the Brief Book Reviews channel, otherwise known as An Old Guy Reviews the Book that he's read this week. So what's the old guy read this week? Well, the book I've read this week is called Long Shadows by author David Baldacci. It was released on 10th November 2022, so a couple of months old now. Baldacci is a fairly prolific author, tends to release two books a year, so there'll be another one along soon. The reason I wanted to read this book is because the very first Baldacci book I read back in 2015 was called The Memory Man, about a chap called Amos Decker. And the front of the book helpfully tells us that this book features FBI agent Amos Decker. This is the 7th Amos Decker story. So who's Amos Decker, I hear you ask? Well, Amos Decker was a former NFL player, received a horrific injury, a brain injury, which altered the way his brain worked. And it worked out that he suffers from two types of illness. One is that the fact that he remembers everything, hence the term memory man. And that in itself can be a blessing and a curse, because whilst he remembers lots of things and that helps him in his work as an FBI consultant, he also remembers all the bad things as well. So as I said, blessing and a curse. He also has an ability to see things in different colours. Vivid colours, for instance, he sees dead bodies in a sort of electric blue colour. So Amos tends to be, because of his injury and because of his personality, tends to ruffle a few feathers, but is entirely relentless in his pursuit of wrong uns and bad guys. So how does this book start off? Well, this book starts off with Amos in a somewhat pensive mood. He's had a call from a former colleague and friend, which has ended in a suicide, which has clearly upset him. He's had a letter from the institute where he has his regular test because of his brain injury, saying that they think that he's in for some changes, which worries him because his perfect memory helps him in his work, and if he were to lose that, then clearly that wouldn't be beneficial. He's also found he's got a new partner called Frederica White. His former partner has gone off to New York and is loved up with a Wall Street investment banker. So at the start of the book, Amos is feeling a bit, not quite his usual self. And he gets a call to meet his new partner, Freddie. And they're told that they need to go down to Florida and investigate what is a fairly brutal murder. Amos doesn't really like Florida, far too much sand and far too much retired people playing golf. But he goes anyway with Freddie, his oppo. And they're sent to investigate a fairly mysterious incident. A judge, Julia Cummins, has been murdered in her home in Florida, in a gated community with full security. And both her and her bodyguard have been murdered. The bodyguard's been shot. Julia's been viciously stabbed. As usual with these types of murders, the husband, or in this case the ex-husband, is always the first suspect. But Barry, the ex-husband, and his son Tyler both have watertight alibis. So hence the trail of the murderer begins with Decker and Freddie trying to find out what on earth's going on here. There's no sign of forced entry. All the usual suspects have watertight alibis. And P.S. Why did the judge need a bodyguard? There were no threats that they were aware of. So that in itself is a mystery. So off they go. And there's also another mysterious happening where the judge was murdered. There was a card with a Latin phrase written on it, and I'll need to check my notes on this one, which says res ipsa loquitur, which means things speak for themselves, things are given. That in itself is why has somebody left that? To all intents and purposes, it looks like somebody is looking for payback for something, but they don't know what. Is it to do with the judge or one of her cases? Is it to do with the bodyguard and the firm he works for? Well, as they go deeper into the mystery, it turns out there's all sorts of things going on. People associated with both the bodyguard and the judge are disappearing and turning up in very bad situations. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on, and there's even a backstory of where the company that provided the bodyguard has a somewhat murky past and involved with political shenanigans in the Reagan era. So a whole bunch of stuff going on. 438 pages. Took me a couple of sessions to read it, but it's another really good Amos Decker story. Great murder mystery, fast pace, lots of twists and turns. I'd definitely give it 8 out of 10. It's a slightly different Amos Decker in this book to the previous books, where he's more not quite at ease with himself. Normally he's relentless, sledgehammer, get stuck in, but he's worried about his cognitive abilities. He's distressed about his friend. He's wondering where he fits into the scheme of things nowadays. So that in itself is, an interesting part of the story. And then there's the usual Baldacci type murder mystery. Very well written, and I really enjoyed reading it. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend a read. I'd give it 8 out of 10. That's it for this week's brief book review. Thanks for watching. 10/10 till we do it again. Thanks.